Norway had always been a country that had impressed Temel, but he never had the opportunity to visit there. One day, when his business partner suggested traveling to Norway, he was instantly thrilled by the idea and accepted it without a moment of thought. Actually, he not only accepted the idea, but also forced his close friend Dursun to accompany him. The three men made their arrangements and preparations in a few weeks, and they found themselves in Norway in the early hours of a spring morning. As their plane was approaching for landing, they had a nice view of the nature and were eager to start their exploration. After settling in the hotel and a long breakfast, they stepped out with their not-so-well English. But that did not pose a problem because the Norwegians had turned out to be very much willing to help. As Temel and his friends traveled around over the few days, they realized another and much more shocking fact. Humans are not destroying the nature. What led them to this realization was the special attention given to natural preservation there, whereas in his home country and in much of the world, the nature was at peril. Over the remainder of their stay, as they talked to different people, they also learned a lot more on the subject than they could ever imagine. First of all, natural conservation in Norway was not an ordinary Greenpeace story. It was rather a tradition. And this tradition was powered not only by the above ground, but also by the underground. Here was a country that had rich oil and natural gas reserves, but this riches was not used to create unfair inequality among people, nor to waste the nature around them. For this, Norway was among the first nations to apply the carbon capture and storage technology. It was Anders, another guest at their hotel, who had told them such details. The gist of carbon capture and storage was that instead of releasing the extra carbon dioxide from human activities, such as burning coal and petroleum, you separate the carbon dioxide, compress it until it becomes liquid, and send it back to where it came from, that is underground. In the recent years, another component was added to this effort, utilization. That is, inventing new ways of using the purified carbon dioxide in ways that would benefit humanity and at the same time save the nature. Temel was simply awestruck by what he had seen and heard. The night before they left Norway, Temel looked into the sky and spent his last hours admiring the aurora borealis. At the same time, troubled by what humanity had been doing to the nature, Temel contemplated deeply about what he could do. The more the humanity grew on the planet, the larger space they occupied, and the more was the carbon dioxide production. And the bad news was that the full-scale installment of the clean energy technologies would not be realized until at least a few decades later. Temel had to come up with something that would benefit humans, something that would utilize carbon dioxide, and that would also grow with humanity. What could that be? The gloom of the situation reminded him the dark color of the liquefied carbon dioxide, which resembled the darkness of the space with no end. Then he remembered the dangerous times his uncle had experienced during the Second World War. Temel was like his uncle now, except that he was navigating in an ocean of carbon dioxide, striving for the good of entire humanity. He wanted to get out of this dark ocean as quickly as possible and started cruising up. Then, the space elevator came to his mind, going up and down in that endless darkness. And that was when the lightning struck in his mind. Temel was going to design an elevator that would work in a well full of compressed carbon dioxide. This well was not going to be underground, but was going to be built in tall buildings. Thus, with each building constructed, there would be more room for carbon storage, there would be a service delivered to people, and by virtue of the way this elevator would work, there would be energy savings. Temel named his elevator as sublift because it was going to work as an elevator but was going to resemble a submarine. Here is how the sublift would work. Let's say there's a 300-meter long building. In the middle of the building, there's going to be a column of storage for compressed carbon dioxide. But this storage would actually work as the medium in which the pod of the sublift would move. To ascend or to descend, instead of constantly consuming power, the mechanism would only make the pod lighter or heavier than the ambient liquid, similar to a submarine. The rest would be handled by gravity on our behalf. Temel was very excited with his new invention. He quickly called his friend Dursun, who was a physics and math genius, and said, "There is an emergency. Prepare yourself to save humanity." Dursun sighed and smiled. It was Temel, as usual. "All right, come here quick." Together they made the first calculations of the sublift. After a sleepless night, Temel was ready to return home with a real project in his mind.